I was born and raised right in the city, Quebec City, but like my parents were born and raised in the countryside, just about an hour out of town. So that's where it all came to life. Like I have the both best of both worlds. I had the chance to come to the city, but go back to the countryside all the time. So that's why I got like a weird story that was juggling between the city and the countryside and trying to find my way through all that.
Because they're vastly different, right? Quebec City is totally different to the country or say the Gaspé Peninsula or area.
Yeah, for sure. Quebec City is the best place to live if you want to have some sort of a connection to like a fairly like to the city. It's pretty small, but like an hour away or half an hour away, you can already be on an Atlantic Salmon River. You can be skiing. I live in the like 20 minutes away from downtown, and I'm at a ski hill right here. I can go 20 minutes further. I can go on a wild lake, fish for some brook trout. So it's really good to have that connection to the city where most of the business happens, and then go on the outskirts of town. I tried Montreal, which is way bigger, and that was too complicated. And then you go like to Toronto, and that's another world. It's just
Yeah.
like wilderness is further and further away. So I like
Yeah.
to be here, and I think it's a really good place to have the calm and build a business too.
It looks like you're sitting in the forest right now. So how far out of Quebec City are you?
20 minutes.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Yeah, 20 minutes. I take my car to the office, and 20 minutes I'm back home here and can just enjoy the wilderness.
So what got you into fly fishing? Did you start with fly fishing?
Yeah, it's a great story because like I remember it, for me it wasn't accessible, but I remember going down those rivers with my grandfather on his canoe, and it wasn't like the best brook trout streams or rivers, but every time there was a cold stream coming into the river, the trout would stack up there, and that's where he would take out his fly rod and he would say, "Don't make a sound," and I would see him cast that out, and right where the water came out, he would get a nice big trout there. And I said, someday I'm gonna do that too. And I was really small, and then I got into it like when I was forget maybe like 8, 9, 10, and then it was trout. We used to cast for trout and troll for trout and in the lakes, and the salmon came upon like a little later in my life. But it was always there, that great passion for the outdoors. My both my parents were raised on the countryside, so it was passed on to me some sort of a DNA of loving the wilderness. But also like I also like wasn't into skateboarding and all that, so I lost it and then I found it back again. So, but
Yeah,
I
see,
was into it when I was super young. Fly fishing was like it was a form of art, and like I think that was the main thing that attracted me to it. It was more you needed to put in more work than just to throw out like a lure or a rapala, which was more like I don't know, different.
yeah.
Yeah,
Canoes are a big part of the culture over there, aren't they?
yeah, really. I absolutely like canoe for, of course, for Atlantic salmon fishing. I'm happy it stayed as a as like in the culture because there were no regulations that made you could have any type of canoe or boat to go onto those rivers. But the essence of Atlantic salmon fishing and all that history comes from those nice big long canoes and poling. So that stayed alive, and like all the first indigenous people who discovered the land here in Quebec, they were all using canoes, and I think it's still for me it's the best way to go about it because like in those big metal Princecraft boats with a big motor, or so we're making images also, so it's always to keep it like closest to like the best, the truest connection you can have to how it was back in the days. And I think that's what's good about Atlantic salmon. And the canoe is the connection is better. Like you're just flowing down and you're controlling it. And you can also flip over. That happened a couple
Yeah.
of times. Yeah.
Is it dangerous? The rivers there seem to be
Mm,
they're not quite like the British Columbia class 4 rapids trying to eat you. Is that
no,
right?
no. The Atlantic salmon rivers are not really dangerous all across the Gaspé. The most dangerous ones, like there's just crazy waterfalls. You just won't try it. It's just like it's the learning curve. it's like anywhere, like you can't go about a river if you don't know what's ahead. I think that's it's just to go with a guide the first time, and then you can find your way through, or always go with a guide if you don't want to go through that difficult process of learning. But I think like for us, in terms of me myself, the canoe was always the way that I prefer to, because it's also silent, and you're using like you're paddling your way down or just on a lake with your fly rod. So yeah,
Yeah, because you
it's
can
been
spook
part of it.
those fish, right? I mean, I've watched them spook and they stay there, but they don't, they almost get this lockjaw where you can see them, but they're not
Yeah.
biting.
Atlantic salmon is just it's just one it's a species like that nobody understands. And yeah, you can see them. They're not really spooked. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they won't bite for a couple of hours, and for X reasons, it's gonna crack and take your fly. So that I think that's what makes it like some sort of magical, and that's why I got into it. But all the process came about as a young boy, canoeing down the Becancour River, it was called, and seeing my grandfather cast for trout, and I guess it just all came about. And I think I was 16 years old the first time I was like put in front of an Atlantic salmon. I said, "Whoa!" But the image also like was like some sort of a more for wealthier people. It was harder to attain,
I was going
and
to
I
ask
think
you
there
that.
was
Yeah.
a lot of work that was put into that. And like when I started Hooke, that's what I wanted to do, is like to show people if you can fish for these fish, like everybody can do it. It's it's just like what is portrayed is yes, there are a lot of wealthy people fishing for them. There are private camps and all that, but there's a lot of public water. So then we try to showcase all those beautiful places and bring a new generation into it. And yeah, it
Ooh,
kind of yeah, it worked out, I think.
I would love to chat a little bit about some of the things that I've heard about Quebec when it comes to fishing and culture, as well as some of the things that I've experienced, just to kind of set the scene. So the first one, this is something I've heard but not experienced. You know, you hear that in the country, uh, people will refuse to speak English with you, even if they can speak it because they want you to speak French. Is that true?
No, I think like for me being raised in English, I think it's I have the best of two worlds, because of course it's a mostly French speaking province, I think. And but at the end of the day, I think that's evolved and changed. That was maybe before internet, like there was not as much access to the English speaking, and of course they wanted to protect the language for sure. But today it's more wide open, and is it a good thing? I think so, because I'm more on the English side, and my kids go to English school, and I'm really glad they speak English, because now I'm bringing them to like trips with me, and they can easily speak to everybody. So it's more of an international language. And thank God I was raised in English, because it gave me the chance to open up on the world and build the business that I have today. And yeah, you can, depending where you go, like there are places where it's just hardcore French. They won't even understand you. But at the end of the day, like as the more as you move towards Montreal, it's more like the little towns. Quebec used to be like, I would say, 80-90% French. So, but today it's more bilingual. You will go in a restaurant, and everybody's gonna need to have to speak English. It's like all this new generation that has learned it in school, has learned it through the computer, has learned it through social media, has learned it through films. So I think my parents, that was the generation that's like they didn't learn it, they didn't know how to speak it. So they're like, we're like, let's protect our language. But I'm not on that. I'm not like on that end. So I know there are people that Quebec also already wanted to become its own, by itself. Like
I didn't want to say it.
yeah,
But a lot of people
yeah,
don't know that. I mean, Quebec wanted to break free from Canada and be its own
yeah,
entity.
yeah. I don't know. That's a weird thing. Like it's like yeah, I don't really understand it, but I think it was a part of this it was an idea. But like I said, I'm from the English speaking part of Quebec. So I wasn't I love Canada, and that's what I enjoy, is to be part of this great country. This is still like so wild, almost like there's not a lot of Canada that is developed, especially Quebec. When I travel like up north, it's the most beautiful place you can ever imagine, like Nunavik and all those great wild rivers that practically unfished. So yeah, I think like there's a lot of progress, and I believe that like the English speaking part of Quebec is growing, and everybody now needs to be bilingual. So it's just evolving. I think it's good.
Yeah. What about the history? You know, you'd mentioned royalty, and I remember when I fished the Bonaventure, the Petite, and the Grand. And I love the Bonaventure because I think you can do some self-guiding there. But on the Grand, I needed to have two guides. And it was because apparently historically there would be two guides per sport or angler. And so they're trying to keep up with the tradition and obviously keep people in work. Have you experienced any of that, or do you have any insight on the history of kind of the royals and how the salmon fishing
Well,
used to be?
you need to remember that the Grand Cascapedia was like also mostly all a private river. People like rich Americans built some camps. They were coming up from New York to fish. And at the beginning, like even the Matapedia, it was the indigenous people that were the first ones to ever understand and fish for the salmon. So they were the first ones who guided the Americans to understand how to fish. So that stayed alive for a certain part of the history, and that's from what I remember. It's also on the Restigouche. They kept it that way. So there's two indigenous guides on every boat to make sure that they're keeping the culture alive. And I think that's a great thing because the Grand Cascapedia, we need to remember it's always been an indigenous land and river. So at a certain point, a lot of it was bought out, but they're trying to get back their rights now, and I think it also comes from that. They had two guides, that one per person, and if I'm correct, there were indigenous guides in the beginning, and some places still keep that alive, which is really good. Where I experienced it was on the Restigouche River, and I know if you go to the Micmac camp, most of the guides are also indigenous, which is great. And yeah, I think it was based out of that. But today you can get one guide per two anglers. But I know certain camps they keep it as like two guides for two anglers. Like I said, it was also like an elite sport for the rich business people. You used to see people fish in suits, and the ladies were all dressed up with the beautiful dress. So there was also to offer that prestigious experience. Some people came and didn't know how to fish, so you could not have actually one guide for two anglers. Everybody needed to have somebody like like everybody needed the help to get to that fish. So I'm not absolutely 100% sure, but what I know is I did a film from the Matapedia and I know how it was there and when they arrived. And the Grand Cascapedia in itself is such a like a historical river, and like it's fun now because we have access to fish it now. There are like sectors that have opened for the draw where you can actually fish the Grand for, I
No
think if I'm
way.
not mistaken, $75 a day, and that's really good. And there's of course there's a lot of private camps and private water because it's this great river with some of the biggest salmon in the world, and like the Bonaventure has a lot of public water. But it's been the history of the Atlantic salmon. And Quebec, what was good is they did the declubbing, it was called. So that's what that opened up a lot of sectors for the river. They took out a lot of private camps and said we need to open up these waters for the people to have access to fish for them. So
Oh, that's great to hear. I actually did not know that.
yeah, because before they could just the whole rivers were all taken over, and like you could not fish for Atlantic salmon. And the
Yeah.
Quebec government came on board and did the grand declubbing, like in French we say the déclubage, and that's what opened up a lot of the rivers for everybody to fish. Of course, you need to pay like a day fee every time you go, and it's a great model, Quebec, because every river has its own like a ZEC you call. So every river has its own like the management that are protecting the river, that are selling the rights to the river. that are analyzing the runs and are making the decisions and changing some regulations. Like last year, the Bonaventure River changed some regulations about like there was like a rule that you couldn't have a weighted fly, but if you had some sort of a like a weighted tube, you could it wasn't attached to your so they just said no, no more of this because it
That
was
was my
kind of
next question. Yeah.
yeah.
Was about tradition because tradition is so important there. How is it working currently with weighted flies? Are they still not allowed?
No, they were never allowed, but there was just this like this flaw in the rules. But I'm really happy because at the end of the day, everything that has to do with the rich culture and the aesthetics behind that, it's staying alive. So if some of the people that steered into that direction, it just didn't get popularized, and it came back, like I said, to somebody could go down the river in this big float boat and start using another tradition, but it's staying alive. Like if you're a young guide who wants to start in the Atlantic salmon world, you're not thinking of bringing this new technology, or maybe the drift boats would go really good, but you're buying your big wooden canoe and you learn how to pull to make sure that is staying alive. So that's what I liked about the Atlantic salmon is all the rich culture behind it, the mysterious fish, and also everything that has to do with preserving it, conserving it, and like it's a big story right now. Like we need to understand it's not the fish that is in the most healthy situation right now. So yeah, but it's a great place to experience fly fishing. Like Quebec, it's all around us. So yeah, I think it helped in it helped in building the brand, and also like it was my first connection with the Atlantic salmon that I said this is worth the while. Like I want to make sure I'm doing something good for this fish. If it wasn't for the Atlantic salmon, I don't know if I would have got so much involved and found like a reason to build a brand and to try to make a difference, and that's what gave all the meaning to. I think that's where I found my path, I think, like,
Yeah.
some sort of a way. Yeah.
Let's talk about it. So Hooke, I remember it from, I mean, it's been years now. I think I read 2012. Do you want to tell the story of that?
Yeah, it's been 12 years, and yeah, actually it came about because of my background in, I would say, entrepreneurship, having built some businesses, getting really involved in videography, cinematography, design, branding. And my first company was out of skateboarding because I wanted to be like some sort of a professional skateboarder, and I got hit by a car at 16, and I was hurt, and I said, man, what am I gonna do? Then I got some money from the crash because it was like the insurance and company, SAAQ it's called here. And then I bought all the great gear and said, I'm building a company, doing some films. So I started doing skateboard and snowboard films, got really involved, touring Canada, going to the United States and putting out those great films. But that was when that's in 1999 VHS, DVD, internet appeared. So I got through all those cycles of learning, seeing all that technology evolve, and our name came out there. And then it was all that time when music videos got really hyped. So we were creative. I was young and I was ready to put in the hours. So our name got out there and worked with multiple companies to end up working with Red Bull for. I remember they came here. I forget when it was, 2006 maybe. First time they came here for the Red Bull Crash Ice. They were looking for a young creative company to do all their media. They met with us, and that came on board like to for a like 10 or 15-year business relationship with them, touring the world, doing these great projects, and keep on learning. Like Red Bull was a great marketing company. Like they were selling a can of juice and they were sponsoring everything. It was like how can that come about? And then I really wanted to reconnect with what was to me like the essence of I think that's what I really love to do, was to be in the great. I kind of got lost in building this business and having some sort of a success and just working around companies, but it got really hectic, and I think it was too busy for me to start over again every day, build a new commercial, new clip, new logo. And then I got a contract before 2012. I remember this guy had like a company that he was distributing like all this the gear in the hunting and fishing world, and he also had Remington, which was a big company, and he had the means to produce like great films. And he said he heard about me. He said you need to go meet this guy, like his name is Fred, and if he gets on board, you're gonna have this crazy production. So he wanted to document his dad's life, and his dad's name was Michel Gravel, and he used to bring clients all around like Canada into these great lodges. And then I got on board. I filmed 52 episodes, if I'm correct, in 52 weeks. And then I said, holy shit, this is amazing. I want to do this. Like I want to go back to these places. So that's when I it came into my head. And after that contract, it stayed in my mind, but I said like I'm not yet ready to do it. What's gonna be my goal? Like what am I gonna do? And in 2012, some guys invited me to go fish the Restigouche River when it was the opening. And some guys said, "You're gonna get along great with these guys. They're young. They're fly fishing for salmon. It's gonna be." So I'll bring my camera along, and I filmed that segment, and that's where I found like the same vibe as I had when I was doing those skateboard and snowboard film. High energy, good times. There's also a great challenge. There's a learning curve, and there's the unpredictability of how your day is gonna go. So I really loved it. Put that film online, and that was 2012. I remember it wasn't that like social media wasn't that big. Like I remember we had put it on Vimeo and it really worked out. So then I said, you know what, guys, let's give a name to our crew, and I'll make more films. And it's just gonna be we're gonna be a fly fishing crew like my skateboard crew. And it's you never know how things are gonna work out, but I think it's the name that then gave me the momentum because when the name Hooke came about, then I said, "Oh man, this is a great name for what like. I think it French Canadian Hooke. You're hooked on life. You can be hooked on anything. Like the fact of being like hooked on something. For me, it was fly fishing and Atlantic salmon fishing. So having a production company, it was easy for me to say, "Hey, let's make a logo, let's make a website, let's make it transactional." But then the hard part came about when I said, how are we going to finance all of this? And then in my head I remember like being inspired by companies like Patagonia, Yvon Chouinard, and everything that he did, because his lifestyle was also like some sort of becoming an entrepreneur without him wanting to be one, following his passion. And then I said, "Oh, you know what? If we dress in a certain way and we make these clothes and we make these films and hundreds of thousands of people watch these films, and the only way they can buy them is through me, maybe that's going to work out." So I told my business partner, we're investing everything we ever made. I'm going to hire the best in the industry and we're going to make it. And he was like, "You're fucking crazy. Fly fishing is like a needle in a haystack. Is the smallest ever segment of something you could try to build from." I said, that's what it is. You need a niche. You need to be the best in something that there is a place to build from, and that's how it all came about. And it's been like a hell of a run. Like today, I'm looking at it, I'm like, holy shit, man. We couldn't do it again. The timing was good. I found the right people, and I remember the guy that I hired to manufacture and design the clothing. He came about right away with all the recycled materials, and like our shirts were $200. And I said, "How are we gonna sell it?" And he told me, "You're gonna thank me in the long run." Because I knew I wanted to do like great clothing, but all that recycled materials, organic cotton, and all. I was like, man, people are they gonna get into it? And today I'm glad we did it, because now we're getting really involved in conservation and we couldn't do it if we hadn't followed, like, of course it's not all perfect, but since day one with the people that I hired, we always stayed true to what we wanted to do. And today it's like it's a fairly decent size outdoor clothing brand, and we're sold all across the world. And now I'm managing myself, trying to become some sort of a good leader, because when you want to be in the outdoors and feel good on a river where there is nobody, and then you get into this business that is growing and scaling, and you're trying to figure out what's your place in there. But it was actually my idea in the beginning, but now it's like to say, holy shit, I have become an entrepreneur without wanting it, and I started a couple other businesses to realize now I really want to invest my time in Hooke, and it all came about with my passion and also wanting to leave a trace. And people told me like, "What are you guys doing for conservation?" Well, I said what we tried to do is try to like show the sport of fly fishing to a wider audience and bring them into it with the conservation in mind, trying to put them aware of catch and release, doing it the right way. And today, if we look at what's happening here in Quebec, is just a thriving industry of fly fishermen, and we even created with the FQSA our own film festival, and the community is huge. But it all began with a dream of saying to people, you can we can make something great out of fly fishing here, and change the mentality. So yeah, it's been it's been really fun, and like right now it's even more fun because a lot more is happening, and it's more concrete, like what we're able to give back and what we're able to do. But like I said, I couldn't do it again if I was gonna start today. It's already changed so much. So
Yeah, I was going
it
to
was
ask you. So, who were the guys that you were fishing with? Because I always thought Hooke was a crew of maybe four of you, but
well at
it's
yeah.
you.
Well, at the end of the day, like I said, those guys when I went to fish with was Vincent Bertrand, Jeff Bourdage, Mathieu Vanout, and Alexis Sarrazin. They were the fishermen that I filmed, and I got along with them. But then they became my buddies, and at the end of the day, like that's the sad thing about business. You know, somebody's investing in it, somebody's putting in the hours, but also some people are being showcased for the fun part of it. So in the beginning, there were all these big investments that I had to do, and those guys were part of it. But just like, hey, we're going on a free trip to Patagonia. I said, no, you know who's paying for this? It's our camera and our cinematography skills that are bringing us there, and the potential we have to promote that place. So yeah, at the end of the day, now we are about. I think I have 23 or 24 employees in Hooke, and everybody that we see that is showcased in our films, it's opportunities that I give to anglers, guides, and like you want to be part of something, and they get to travel, host the shows, and be part of but they are not the owners of the company. They're more like ambassadors, and some come and go, like in every business. But the core part of Hooke, it always stayed true to what I want to do. And I had also had like business experience where I already knew where the issues were gonna. I see a lot of young people starting in a big, like they're six guys and they're trying to sell like I don't know, blank t-shirts with their logo, and they're like, we're gonna live from this. And I'm like, wait a minute, you better figure out your roles and responsibilities, who's gonna do what, because someday somebody's gonna be filming more, somebody's gonna be taking the photos, and you're maybe gonna lose that. Just to have a business plan. So I had a great business plan behind the business, but I think not a lot of people believed in it. So I'm glad today. I can show the people it's good sometimes to follow your crazy dream. Yeah.
Yeah. When did you pivot to merchandise?
It was since day one because yes, since day one, but it took like a couple of years to find the right people. But day one was the logo, and then I made one cap, and we were three guys who wore it in the next film. And
Yeah.
then like emails, where can we get the cap? So then that's when it all came about. I said I
Ah.
knew that we couldn't do like cheap blank. I don't know, you do a hoodie and you buy a Gildan hoodie, and I'm saying, We're not a clothing company if we do that. We're just like an idea, or I don't know, we're not gonna make it." But it was just timing and finance. We had the money to hire those people and take the big leap and the big risk. So since day one, but then the goal is that I knew how to market it. I knew how to sell it. We were great cinematographers. We were great at branding. So then I said, all we need is like this. big contract. Let's try for the TV show. And what happened is that 2 years in, we signed a huge contract for a TV show, 13 episodes on a like a TV5 World and Uni TV, and that gave me financing to hire 5 people and keep them on board for 5 years, and that just created the whole, like, we called the show Hooke, but it was also the name of the brand, and it was playing like prime time TV. So they took a risk with us, but I told them, don't play our show like Sunday morning. It's gonna be the greatest show. We're gonna be like traveling the world, showcasing the lifestyle people choose that when they follow their passion, and it really worked out. So I said, like, so many little things. You take the show away, I don't think it could have had like it. It's like if I had a marketing budget of $1 million just to build our content. So it really helped out. It really, really helped out. Our cinematography and my experience in branding, marketing, and business is what helped, like, build the brand. So I knew we were going to do great films, but we had to have something to sell. So at the end of the day, I said, I think we could make it if we make this kind of hybrid between Patagonia and Filson, and stay true to our to who we are, talk about the great wilderness, the importance to keep the nature wild, and share all those stories of the people who followed their passion, and bring back like all this this love to say, hey, it's great to become a fly fishing guide. Don't get me wrong, like, it's not because you're not making a lot of money that it's not the greatest job in the world. So I meet a lot of people now. Hey, I started to guide and follow my dream because I saw the show, I saw this episode, and I was inspired by this guy or this guy. So it was all a great experience. But yeah, the first thing that got us noticed was the films, but I said I need to make everything on the highest level we can, whether it's a photo, it's a film, or it's a piece of clothing. So that was in my mind, and I managed to get the right people on board at the right time, and you could follow really a great line of how it all happened, and I can share it with anybody and say, if you build a brand, that's probably what you need to do. But to make it all happen and connect all the dots, it's just I don't believe in luck, but I believe also in hard work and a little bit of luck. Yeah.
Who was your most important hire? Which role?
Well, it was when the first and most important is when I sold the part of my production company to my business partner today, who his name is Matt Vizina, because he became like the organized one and had all the financial skills to manage a crazy artist like me who wanted to go in all directions. So that was the first guy who came on board who was able to control like all the crazy ideas that I have and make sure that I didn't spend everything on crazy ideas. And he actually followed me in Hooke, but he gave me he gave me a harder time at points. Like, man, you're a crazy idea, man. If you don't hit this amount of money, it's not gonna work out, because we wanted to go to retail. But then the other important hires, it happened quickly, was Jean Olivier, who was a clothing designer, and then Barbara, who had all the connections for manufacturing, who did like big brands before, and then came in all the cinematographers, that are the graphic designers. But I also had great people in my production company that were there already. So I have employees now they've been working for me for like more longer time than Hooke has been existing. So we are like an old group of people like working together. And today we are all happy because we are touching something that, I don't know, not a lot of people have the chance to every day wake up and do what they like, and also do something that, what are we going to do today so we can change something, change the vision of someone, or of a certain action you can do that is more concrete than like just building. I don't know. When I had a production company, I kind of found it useless at times doing stuff for people and just letting it go and starting over every time. Now we can control our somewhat of our own destiny and say what we think is right. And if it doesn't work out, at least we took the decision and it's not somebody else who did it for us. And yeah, but today it's great team, and it's more me that I need to work hard on understanding what my role is now as all of this is growing. And because I didn't want to be part of the what you see, but then I said, why don't I share what I think? And then I made a series and I put myself in it, and then I opened up my first Instagram account when I was like maybe 4 years ago, and said, yeah, I'll become the best ambassador of my own company. And that started to change a lot of, like, for me. It's I was like, oh shit, I need to understand what I'm actually doing. It's not only about going fishing, it's about sharing what I believe in. And today it become even bigger now, and I made a book and I made more films and got on board in different organizations and the board of directors, and bring all this creative energy to say, like, we can change the perspective and mentality. And also we need to maybe re look into how things are marketed, because there is this old image that is staying there. And I believe also in changing the mentality behind hunting. This is a great part of what we want to do. So yeah, it's everything has been everybody that's been along the ride has been an important hire. And today the whole team, I couldn't take anyone off board, if you could say, because we need more and more people. It's growing really fast, and I think that's going to be the biggest challenge, is to stay true. Like, I know why I started this company, and it's not to make money. It's to make sure we are changing and we are promoting the great outdoors in a good way, and integrating like all that has to do with the indigenous culture, the great wilderness, the wildlife, its preservation, the habitats. Because I think that's now it's tangible for me, like, more than ever. I see decline now where I hadn't seen before. And I remember, if you look at my grandfather, he didn't even have that in his mind, like conservation. What is that? We don't. Why would we get involved? Every time I go fishing, I catch fish, and every time I go in my tree stand, there are deer that come to me. But today, it's not the same. So,
So, what's your focal point with that at the moment?
what do you mean with
L-
the?
Conservation in general. I mean, it's a broad topic, but are you focused specifically on Atlantic salmon? Where is your focus?
Well, right now, as me as an individual, is where I have the most understanding. So right now, my focus is on the Atlantic salmon. We have a great collaboration coming with the Atlantic Salmon Federation, and I'm trying to get more and more involved in the promotion of Atlantic salmon, and all these new anglers that are getting into the sport, also making sure they're understanding what they're getting into. And I want to change also. We've been part of it also, like going fishing to take a photo and all that. And now I'm just realizing, you know what? All this photo taking and all that, I don't think it's good. Like, I think we need to try to find a way where, of course, there's the fish that need to stay in the water, keep him wet. But I've seen a big steer that I don't like, and I'm still reflecting upon it right now. I think people are going out there just for the sake of saying they went and showing how they, like, people who just go there, whether it's hunting or it's fishing, to take that photo and to share it. They had forgot, like, the other reason why they should go. So social media is a big part of where I want to kind of get involved and say, like, ooh, where is this? Where is all of this going? And yeah, because we are good in like getting on board a new generation of people, but I really want to make sure we're doing it in the right way. And with the ASF right now, what we're doing is, of course, we're gonna have this great line of clothing where all the profits will go back to conservation. But the main part is to say, like, if you're into Atlantic salmon and you enjoy it, make sure you are also a member of these organizations, and don't believe these organizations are just for an older generation. They are there for the right reasons. And, like, become a, like, if you're a member, you'll get those newsletters, and make sure you're reading them, because the information that is shared in there is important for you to understand all the issues that are happening with the Atlantic salmon, but also everything else, like whether it's Ducks Unlimited, Wildlife Habitat Canada. I think it's there's a gap between like it's not cool, so we're not getting into it. But I think if you're a young person, you need to understand these organizations, and that's the gap that we want to bridge, is to be this younger, appealing like outdoors company that is bringing like all this information to these people and promoting it in a way where you feel maybe it's easier to get on board, because the, all the marketing behind those conservation groups is not always directed to that younger generation. So they just don't take the time to get on board. They just, like I said, they go out there because it's cool, and then they have a photo and they share it, and they're like, "Wow." But I think there needs to be way more effort on our part to make sure we're doing the right thing, and that's in my conscience like all the time. And I'm like, shit, you may make a nice brand, and you may do something good, but it's not really about like the likes and the shares it's a weird place. You
Yeah.
probably
It's a
about
tricky
it too.
place.
Like you're like, shit, man, I did it. But
That's what I mean.
like,
How do you navigate that when you also built your platform on it? I've struggled with this before because you get the people who say, "Well, you did it and you built your platform on it, and now that you are well known and you've had your heyday, you want to stop everyone else from doing it." So it gets very hard to navigate.
exactly. So that's why I say lead by example. So I'm not saying that's what that's what I'm saying to do. I'm like, I'm reflecting upon it, and I said I was maybe part of the problem, and now I want to make sure that I'm part of the solution. So what am I gonna do to change it up? Then that's my personal thing. And what is my company gonna do? So that's why we're making sure, like, if we say something and we're doing something and we're getting on board to these big collaborations, every step is important. Let's make sure we're carefully navigating in this big industry. So, like, of course, the first leading by example was create great images, great films, and all that. But today, I think great films and great photos have become so accessible. It's like it's not about the film; it's about what your film is about. And I believe I went to the last IF4, and I'm like, these days are slowly over. Like those films of like unaccessible places with the biggest fish in the world, not so much great storytelling. I think is a good thing that it's kind of gonna slowly, somewhat steer away and become something else. I think it's changing, but I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, be curious to see where it goes. Where do you think it will go?
I think it's gonna go in a place where there is more interesting stories and less big fish all the time, because it kind of becomes like I realize when we're scripting new films now, I'm like, you know what? The last film festival we did here in Quebec, the guy who won, he didn't catch a single fish. You don't see a single fish in the film, and it's about the struggle of never catching fish. And I'm like, that was a great film. And you know why he won? Because everybody's tired. There were other great films. Everybody's tired of seeing this guy go out there, cast, and get this crazy fish. But at the end of the day, that crazy fish was caught in a place that it's easier to catch than on the stream where everybody fishes. So I think what's happening is that the decline is becoming more like in our generation we're seeing it, and then we want to get involved, and I think that's going to be the big place where things are going to change, a reconnection with what's real, like those films of these unaccessible places and big fish. Yes, of course it's real, but at the end of the day, if we're all doing that and we're doing a film festival about that, I think we're we're selling a dream that is not really accessible to everyday normal people. And I truly believe what I'm seeing from brands like Patagonia and their films and their actions and what they're doing. I think more and more people are gonna want to get into that, and I think that's gonna be like a great thing. Maybe some films are always gonna be about the trophy fish, and it's gonna be good because you need to dream. It's like we were in snowboarding and skateboarding, where before you had a video part and you were given hundreds of thousands of dollars by companies to film a video part. You were a pro athlete, but those days are over. Like everybody's filming, everybody's doing these crazy tricks. How are you? How are you like different from somebody else who's doing it? Everything has become accessible. So
Yeah.
it's a big place where things are changing. I don't have the absolute answer, but right now I'm in a space and time where I'm reflecting upon what are we gonna do to bring change, and if we are gonna build our own film festival, let's change it up. Let's pay the people to do the films, and let's give some rules about how we want it to go. So then we're maybe creating a different way of seeing things. But like I said, it's just ideas that are running through my head sometimes, and I'm like, what's happening with all of this?
Keeping you up at night. You did a film once that sticks with me. And it was, I don't know where you guys were. I think it was maybe northern Quebec, but you are on these rock flats, it seems. And there's all this fast water pushing over these shallow rock flats.
Yeah,
What
that's
I don't even remember what you were fishing for. I just remember the landscape. Can you tell me about that trip?
yeah, that's for sure. That's northern Quebec, and it's like it looks like you're on the moon at certain places. And that was, I'm pretty sure that's Wedge Hills. It's an Atlantic Salmon River that goes down this stretch of 7 kilometers of rapids, and you're just standing on some rocks and looking at little pockets where you think there's a salmon, and
That's the one, yeah.
you're casting out there, and when the salmon wants to run, you can't stop it. It's just gonna go down a chute and another chute, and you can't even run after it. And northern Quebec is for me, that's a place where I really enjoy going, and it's great because once again today when you go where there is very few anglers and not a lot of pressure, you really have the chance to experience what it still like what fishing a wild healthy river looks like. And you get into a lot of action. Like every day is filled with action, but it's just the fact that you're there and you know there's nobody else around that makes it so pure, and it's not gonna ever be developed, I think, up there.
No. So where are they going? So they're obviously coming from the ocean. And then how far of a run upstream do they have?
Oh, it depends. Like it depends where you're fishing, because how it goes, like there is the Ungava Bay. So all those rivers of northern Quebec we are fishing, they flow into the Ungava Bay, and those salmon, some just stay in the Ungava Bay. They go in there and they feed and they go back up the river. Some go all the way back to Greenland and then do all the way. But you can go up to, I think, if you think the George River, there is 5 camps, and I think the furthest one would be like, if I'm not mistaken, 300 or 400 kilometers upstream. That salmon will swim.
They can make it there without starting to atrophy or without their body starting to break down?
No, they can make it. They can go a really, really, really long way. And if you, yeah, I'm pretty sure some go even further than that. Like the Leaf River, if I'm not mistaken, where we're fishing, and we're not all the way up, and some salmon have went all the way up. We're 200 kilometers, and Norpac on the George, I'm pretty sure it's over 300 kilometers from the shore.
Huh. Do you think over the last couple decades that steelhead have kind of stolen the limelight from salmon?
No, I think it's two different worlds and different anglers, because it's a different lifestyle that nobody's really traveling always all the time from one place to another. So all the local people, for like us, people who live here, our Atlantic salmon near, we get really involved in that. And when we cross over once in a while as a dream, we want to go and explore it. We want to go and do it. And I think they're having both. They have both their great stories. They both have like their issues and their worries. And I think some people have the chance to fish for both. But when you get addicted to one or the other, I think it's also the fact that the one that is closest to you is gonna be the one of choice. And if you're closer to the steelhead, you're gonna fish for steelhead. And if you're closer to Atlantic salmon, fish for Atlantic salmon. But they have the same kind of magical unpredictability of why they're gonna take it, when they're gonna take it, and also the fact of how precious they are, and how why people want to get involved to protect them. So I don't know. I'm not a steelhead angler. I went a couple of times and just understood that they they were fished some sort of in the same way, but there's not like bomber, dry flies, dead drifting. There's you can skate a fly. You know more about the steelhead for sure than me. And if I was gonna move towards BC, I'm sure I would get involved and get addicted to the steelhead for sure because they are the Atlantic salmon. I believe that's the closest you can get to fishing for Atlantic salmon in a sort of way. You did both. Did you
Yeah.
do Atlantics a lot?
Yeah, yeah. As someone who does both, I always find it very fascinating because they have got so much in common, yet it feels as though there are two totally separate worlds of people who fish for each. I think a lot of it comes down to the misconception that Atlantic salmon are inaccessible. A lot of people just feel like it's easier to do a do-it-yourself trip for steelhead than for salmon, which, as you know, is not necessarily the case. Um, but yeah, they each have their own cult following, but I find uh, very little crossover between
Yeah.
the
Well,
groups.
I think that was the biggest issue that we came on board to change that mentality. And because Atlantic salmon here, we got like over 100 rivers you can fish. And now we created this world where this younger generation can get on board and the do it yourself is so accessible. It's like the most well managed rivers you can imagine. There's
Yeah.
protection on every river. There's a little camp where you can go and buy your license. Somebody's gonna give you the map or the good pools. You can get a guide. So I think that's what's great is that the business model here of creating like a great image for Atlantic salmon and making it accessible is thriving and it's getting more people involved into the sport. And we always have to like I'm always in between both worlds of like is it good to have those many people on the river? But at the end of the day, there used to be two guys fishing the same pool nonstop crazy for 12 hours. And now you get 10 people fishing nonstop crazy, but there's the same amount of flies in the water at the time because you need to respect the same like rotation and you can't have it's not like you go to those places where there's no regulations and just people line up fishing. I think steelhead is the same. You have a rotation system or
Should, but there are still some people who line up. As somebody who has fished
oh yeah.
Atlantic salmon in a number of fisheries, I find that Atlantic salmon fisheries are generally better organized than steelhead fisheries from a government stance.
Oh, for here anyways, everywhere they are protected and they have their regulations and organizations that are there to protect it and it's creating a lot of income for all the regions that have an Atlantic salmon river and it's been really good also to see the government getting involved in all the catch and release and just announced a couple of 2 weeks ago all rivers catch and release. They were scared of the lower returns that they've seen in the past years and they just said you know what nobody's gonna keep a salmon this year and it's like wow we're onto something here like they acted to make sure they're preserving the fish. And what's good about it is that some people are like, I'm canceling my trip. You know what? I'm not going there anymore. So some outfitters, it was only on 4 rivers, but what happened is those cancellations just got rebooked like that with catch and release people, and
They would
now
have, yep.
it's not true that it was a big loss in revenue, which there was a day when it was an issue. And today, with all this community of people promoting Atlantic salmon, the rivers, the good ones, are not even allowed to do marketing anymore because like if we share that, like some have fish ladders when they can, like they used to say like, what a great day, 300 salmon passed today,
Yeah, that's right.
and
In the
then
journals, right?
the next morning there would be like hundreds and hundreds of anglers. So today they don't need a lot of promotion, all those rivers, because there are so many anglers, and it's the easiest thing to promote. It's so beautiful. So uh, everybody who's going out there to make a film about Atlantic salmon or take some photos and share their day, they are in a great place for photography, cinematography, and when you see one of those fish, I mean, it's just like it's very different from a pike or a walleye. It's not the same. It's not the same history or the same magic.
What's your trick to keeping the black flies off your neck and out of your face?
It's to be in a good place where the fish bite a lot, so you don't have to worry about the flies. Well, at the end of the day, there's been so many different things. Like when we were in Sweden, these guys had like this crazy little liquid that's like worked out really good, and then as of course you can't get away with the DEET and the just that. But at the end of the day, it's not that bad in those Atlantic salmon rivers where it's all like the Bonaventure and full of rocks and it's cold. It's really really bad when it gets warm and you're up north. But if the fish are biting, I think you can get bit by those flies a lot more.
Oh,
You
they almost put me in hospital. My whole throat started to close up.
Oh yeah. No,
They're awful.
when it's bad, we just use the like the mosquito repellent. But there are new things that we're trying, and they are all natural. So I think it's better than to put like this DEET cream. But yeah, I don't have issues with that. It depends of people. Some people get bit like crazy, but me, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I have like a immune system against them.
Good.
I've been with them all my life.
And the long hair, having the long hair keeps them out.
Maybe.
What's your next film or where's your next film? Do you have anything coming up in a festival?
Yeah, yeah, we have a lot of things. Right now I have some films touring in IF4. I have my film in Tunalik that I filmed last year, and I have my film Only the Salmon Knows that's in the Fly film tour. And this year we're working on a great documentary with the ASF. So this is going to take a lot of our time to showcase our collaboration and all the efforts that are being put into the conservation of the salmon, share that story. So that's going to be a film that's going to tour all across of Canada. And on my personal side, my films, I'm going to the Leaf River to do a film there. I'm going also to the Hawk River to do another film there. I'm bringing my daughter to the Northwest Territories for a 10-day expedition. She wants to see the Northern Lights. She's 10 years old. And I said, you know what? I think you're ready for this great expedition. I'm gonna bring you out there. So I'm still wondering. I'm always in between both worlds. I'm like, am I gonna share the story or I'm not gonna share it? And it's always like, am I gonna do a film about it? I could do a film about it. I could finance it, but sometimes I was all my life in the filmmaking, so I'm not sure yet. But I know I have like a couple of great projects there, and I have my Stewards of the Land series. I shoot 1 or 2 episodes every year. This year, I'm gonna go with a family, and I'm gonna track the moose, and we're gonna take the moose hind and everything, and show all the process that's been put into doing the moccasins. And we're gonna collaborate with a friend of mine who's indigenous here, and he just opened up. He bought a moccasin company, and we want to showcase all the love that's being put into like keeping everything of the animal. And I think that's another thing that's kind of being lost that needs to come back, making sure we're keeping the most of the animals that we harvest. And so that's going to be another project. But it's the projects are I try to do 100 days a year out in the wild. So I'm pretty close to those 100 days, but a lot of them it's more to understand where we stand. I meet with people. I go there. I see the how the nature is behaving. What are the issues, and I need that time now. Because I know the rest of the time now I need to be doing some business, and I'm not even sure that I like to be a businessman. I think it's kind of a hard part of my life, but I say, you know what, it gives me the chance to make a difference and go out there and do those great trips. But if I couldn't just enjoy the wild, I think that's what I would do every day. But
How old are you now?
Now I am 43.
Okay.
Yes, I started my first business when I was 16, so that's 27 years of just being my own boss and navigating through different companies. I started another business in the agricultural world, like small scale farming, and we did all these great clothes and stuff to promote like small scale farming and all the organic. Well, I just sold the company, but it went really great. I just gave myself another challenge, and now I'm more in a I don't know, when you get over 40, you're like, okay, what am I gonna do with my life? And I make a plan, and now I have a business coach, and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm doing. This is my end game. I'm not trying. I don't want to have multiple companies, multiple investments. I just want to do this, and I'm gonna do it right, and I hope I don't fuck it up. And I think we're on a good path because I like to meet with the people that, well, let's say we go to like a hunting and fishing show where we're kind of the brand that stands out because I remember when we said we were doing films about fly fishing and releasing the fish, and I'm never gonna show a kill shot. They're like, "What? How are you gonna do it?" And today it's not. It's less and less about like seeing an animal suffer, killing a fish, and all that promotion the old way it's been done. And today we have our place there, and I can do like a conference and tell the people about like stopping to just do a film and have a replay of how much the animal is suffering. And I think that's a place where I don't know why so many people enjoyed it, and like seeing that kill shot. And people were like, you're never gonna be able to make a good hunting film if we don't see the animal die. Said, and I remember watching a film, and a great cinematographer, said, a a shot of an animal suffering is a cheap shot in terms of the shot of the camera. It's just stayed in my mind all that time. And when the first time we did one, I said, guys, don't worry about it. Like, let the hunter do his thing. And anyways, at the end of the day, you don't need to look at each other and you got it, you had it, you have it. Can I shoot? We're not going to show it. We're just going to show the pursuit and the importance of putting some respect in the animals that you hunted. That's another space that we're navigating in, but I'm like, how is that evolving? Like, we're still, it's hard. You hunt yourself also,
Mm-hmm.
so
And it is, I just don't even share it. I might share that I'm out, but apart from the butchery, I don't share any of it because it's just
yeah,
too, it just causes me too much drama
yeah, it's
with a
weird.
small group. So I just leave it out. But
Yeah.
as somebody who does love hunting and appreciates a kill shot, I don't want to watch it. I appreciate my own kill shots. I don't like
Oh,
them. I actually hate killing things. I love hunting and pursuing. I love eating. I don't actually like the killing. And when I watch a hunter's pursuit, like you said, I want to watch everything leading up to the shot, but I don't necessarily want to watch the shot, if that makes sense.
yeah, it does. Like for me, like this is the other part where we got invested since day one, but I'm still reflecting upon like even myself, but like I eat wild meat like all the time. I have the Crohn's disease, and I need to eat the wild meat. That's what's make me like have a great digestion. And if I eat like not the wild meat, that's where things don't go well.
Oh, interesting.
And yeah, it's really I don't know how much wild meat you eat, but
T
if
Tons.
yeah,
For
when
me,
you
it's
navigate from one to the other, that's when your body you see your body like
uh-huh.
trying to digest like what I love is when I go to the grocery store, and I like for it's been I think at least 15 years that I've never had to navigate in
Meat
the
section.
aisle,
Yeah.
and I'm looking at it and I'm like, holy shit. Can you imagine the life that that animal had, the way it was harvested, and how long it's been there? It's packed in plastic and foam. You're gonna buy it and you're gonna put it in your body. Holy shit. And when you have like a nice like steak of moose or deer, the color that it has and all the protein and the anyways. But yeah, the hunting part for me is just I love the connection. Like Fishing gives you the opportunity to release, which is good, and you have the chance to do it more. And hunting, you also have the chance to pull the trigger or not all the time. And once the trigger is pulled, and you're allowed one per year, let's say, it doesn't mean you can't go back. You can go back and try to reconnect with that animal, and that connection of letting it go sometimes is even better than it's to understand what you really need. Like
Communicating, calling,
it's
tracking,
crazy.
all of it. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And
Yeah, yeah,
when
me.
hunting season's over, you like I'm looking out. We've obviously got some hunting in the back here, and it's never over. I might not take a shot, but it's not over.
No, no, it's in your mind all the time. But us, it's just the best. Like it crosses over the like it's our season starts for fishing. It starts April 25th, but you can also do the fishing in the wild turkey. I don't know if you ever did that.
Now I need to. Well, I have in Idaho once for a
Okay,
week, but I
because
was
then
super pregnant.
you're communicating with them, so that's really good. And the bear I don't hunt. I don't think a bear deserves to die. That's my my thinking. And then after that there is the after the salmon season, then the moose and the white-tailed deer. And then if you get a moose and a white-tail, you're good to go for the whole winter and your whole family and friends, and you can make the sausage and yeah.
Now you just need to add goats or sheep into that list.
Nah, no. Goats. Oh, wild goats. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Like mountain goats or
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have that. I don't. Yeah, probably. I don't know. I will probably evolve someday to go and try those, but I'm not sure if I. Yeah. Did
are there
they
not are there mountain
did
goats there? Are there not mountain
no
goats?
no no
Oh, okay.
no us it's really moose and white-tailed deer and the
Yeah,
bear,
right.
but the bear I don't know, an animal that you eat and can kill you. I don't think you should eat it.
Look, I have a rule, and I'm going to upset some people here, but it's just a personal thing. I personally don't hunt things with paws. Maybe with the exception of rabbits, because we eat a lot of rabbits, but typically just hoofed animals.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good thing. But at the end of the day, like I'm not. It's just like I like to try to speak to the animal and try to put some effort to bring him to me. But if I put a anything that is baited, I think that's a regulation that should change. And if we were able to bring catch and release into the sport of Atlantic salmon and get this year 100% of people involved in the catch and release, I'm sure in hunting is the same. It can evolve and change and more regulations can come on board so the animals have a better chance of survival, but it's always going to evolve. And that's why I'm happy I'm in this industry, because there is a lot of place for change, because the old generation and the old way of promoting the sport of fishing and hunting hasn't changed that much. But fly fishing has always been some sort of an aesthetical side to it. And when you think of Lee Wolf, who talked about catch and release in 1938, it's like it's always been a respectful a way to try to catch the fish, the fly. It's been so I think that's what attracted me is the art form behind the the sport. And it's like archery, and I think it's but archery is good, but at the end of the day, if you choose to have the the perfect kill and you're allowed both, I don't know. It's a you have more chances of harming, but I don't know. You never know. It's like a barbless hook. You're still hooking something in the mouth of a fish.
We just had this conversation the other day. I got a deer, oh, just what, a month or so ago. And again, I take a deer every year with a bow. And I think I've landed in wanting to use a gun at close proximity because my average shot is 7 to 10 yards. And I got into bow hunting because I hunted with a baby on my back. But now that I'm solo out there, I think I'm going to start bringing my gun out and just taking the same shots, but at close proximity.
Yeah, it's like everything. There is always a we always have an opportunity that presents ourselves, and we need to choose why we are doing this. And for me now, hunting is I choose to go there to go and get some meat and get that connection. And I'm not yet into that big like challenge of like going in with my bow and me, because I'm like, oh man, what if I had a nice shot and I could have got it with my gun? I think the most important for me is to have like a quick kill,
Yeah.
but it's gonna evolve for sure. It makes sense for me, but if I don't put in the time, I'm not gonna go in the woods with my bow and I'm be like take a chance to harm an animal, because I
Yep.
heard a lot of stories of.
Yep. They're right. And most people don't talk about them. So I'm happy to hear that you're exploring that. So, speaking of which, what's next for you? We'll start to wrap it up. Is there anything that I've missed that you'd like to add about your timeline or about Hooke?
Well, no, I did. Just went in a lot of places, but the main thing for me right now is that the brand is has evolved. I was able to build something good with a good team, and now is what are we gonna do with that? And we've always told myself the goal is not to make money. Of course, you need to make some, but now that we are in this great space, let's try to make a difference. So that's why we're making sure that every year we get back to our mission, and we are getting more and more involved with the organizations. And we were able to, like, one great thing I didn't mention is that 3 years ago I said, hey, you know what, I think we should get more involved with like bringing people into the wild. And we had an opportunity. We did a shirt, and all the profits went to kids with who are fighting cancer.
All right.
And the money was given to the families who used to go into the nature, like on a fishing trip and an expedition, and they lost that while their children were fighting cancer. And I was able to accompany some kids that had survived and bring him there, and we were able to give $200,000 to the foundation. And then that's when I realized that's what really makes me happy, to see and share that, and also to see the hardships that people are going through and the benefits that nature brings to them. So this that was a great project, and today I'm still following a couple of those kids that got out of it. And I'm supposed to bring one. His dream is to catch an Atlantic salmon. And now, yeah, it's always to do the best of what I can do, and to leave a trace. And I just put out a book in November, and it's going really good, and it's great. Like the story of part of the story of Hooke, and it
Is
was
it
really
in the
good.
on the website? Where can people find your merch, your films, your
It's all
book,
on the
everything?
website. Yeah, hooke.ca, and everything is there. So you'll see, you can join our mailing list, and you'll get all the info. And we
Yeah.
have like the book was in French, of course, but I'm working on an English version.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, we'll see if it comes out. Never know. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, I will hook all this up. I will link all of this up. Is there anything that you wanted to add or ask me before I let you go to your evening?
No, I just like to add to tell everybody like it's important to enjoy life, follow your passion, and try to keep the nature as wild as we can. And I think at the end of the day, like within a community of fly fishing enthusiasts, we already understand part of that, but it's to bring more people into that, and wake up in the morning and say what can we do to make a difference. Sometimes we don't think about it, but now I don't know. I'm in that space and time, so I'm just trying to tell people, you know what? If you have this crazy idea about following your passion, try it. You never know, man. Maybe it can something good can come out of it. So don't listen to the other people all the time. So yeah.
I'll wrap it up there. All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks to you.